a video on frozen blueberries, and if you're wanting to use them in cakes. So once you freeze fruit like blueberries, or you buy frozen fruit like blueberries, a lot of the liquid wants to leach out of the blueberries. If they are whole like that, you can't really kind of quite tell. So it's kind of quite difficult to make a cake with them without all the liquid wanting to come out of them and then wanting to sink down to the bottom of the cake, even if you dust them in flour. So what I do is I give them a little bit of a squeeze, like that, and then what it does is it releases some of the liquid that comes out of them, and then they act more like a dried fruit more than anything else. So you can put them in a colander like that, and what happens is you leave them overnight, and the excess liquid will want to come out of them, and then you can use them in cakes and things. So you still get the blueberry flavour, but it's a little bit more like using dried fruits. You don't have to. I'm doing them all individually, which obviously you kind of think that's a bit of a faff. However, if you're wanting to speed up the process, what you can do is you can take your blueberries, put a single layer in a pan like that, and then give them a squish with something like a potato masher like that. Don't be tempted to put too many blueberries in at once. You'll just make a mess of most of them, and you kind of don't want to kind of do that. So if they're on a single layer, you can control how much you squish them. So that's a lot quicker, and you can see all that juice. That juice wants to come out. So then what you do is you take those, put them in a colander, and then just let them, the excess moisture, noisy pan, let the excess moisture out, drip out of them overnight. So that's just, I'm going to just be able to go through and see if I haven't missed any. Give them a poke as well. So the excess moisture will come out, and it won't make a mess of your cake. So what I'll do is I'll leave those to do that overnight. I'll do the rest of them, do the rest overnight, and then we'll make a cake with them tomorrow. The cake is a slightly different recipe, so I'm still using imperial. So a cake is 4 ounces of flour, 4 ounces of butter, 4 ounces of sugar, and 2 eggs. So it's 4, 4, 4, 2. Dead easy way of remembering it. However, if you're going to use fruit or something like dried fruit, it's best off just to up the flour a slight bit. So it's 5 ounces of self-raising flour, 4 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of butter, and 2 eggs. That just works slightly better. So that's it. We'll come back tomorrow when I've made the cake mixture, and those are drained overnight, and you'll be able to see how much juice has come out of them. The blueberries have been draining overnight, and as you can see, they look a lot more like raisins now. Still juicy, still tastes like blueberries, but all that excess water from the frozen blueberries has gone, well, all the juice has gone into the bowl below. So that's, if you imagine, if you'd have tried to make the cake with those blueberries, I'm thinking Blues Brothers. It's on TV this week. So if you imagine if you'd have tried to make the cake or the muffins with frozen blueberries, all that liquid would have gone into your cake and ruined your cake. So if you're going to use frozen blueberries, or you're going to freeze your own blueberries and you want to use them in the cake, this is a good way of using them up. I'm not going to waste that. I've got some more of the blueberry juice, so I think I'm going to turn that into cordial, but that's another time. So there was originally 500 grams of blueberries, and that gave us 221 grams of juice and 279 grams worth of blueberries. I've done that. So I'm going to make 2 cakes. So that's the cake mixture. So it was, as I was saying before, it's I go on the 4442 recipe. So that's 4 ounces of flour, 4 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of butter, 2 eggs. So it's 8 eggs. So it's go up like 16 ounces of butter, 16 ounces of sugar. But because we're putting fruit in, I've added 4 more ounces of flour. I'll measure that out right. Do I need 4? Actually, I need a little bit more flour in there. thinking about it. So I need 2 more ounces in there. So what I'm going to use, this flour here, and what you should always do is if you're adding fruit to things, you should always just give it a dust in flour, and then the fruit doesn't sink to the bottom of the cake. So fruit in there like that, out of the way, that's somewhere safe. Ooh, blueberry there. Just do these over like that, and then what will happen is they won't sink to the bottom of the cake. I think we probably could have done with some more blueberries than this, but it'll be right. We'll sort it out. I'll adjust the recipe accordingly. You can put too much fruit in things, if I'm honest. I've done it in the past and I thought I was being clever, but it didn't work. It was delicious on us to later because I'm greedy. So those get turned over. Probably could have done with a bigger bowl. So cake mixture. I'm not going to show you how to make a cake. I don't think you need to know. Well, you do need to know how to make a cake. But if you're watching this video on what to do with frozen blueberries, then you already know how to make cakes. So scrape that off there, and then it's just a case of combining in. Oh no, I think that's quite a good amount. So I'll mix, and I'll put in 2. See, it's nice just to kind of break it up a little bit, so it goes a little bit like like a bit of a ripple to it. So a little bit of juice will come out, so a bit of a ripple. Looks like a quite nice amount of fruit, is that? So I've got 2 cake tins that I've lined with baking parchment. So I'll put those in there. I'll write all the recipe in the description. But the next bit of the video is after the cakes are cooked, and I'll cut into one, and you can see what it looks like in the cake. As you can see from these 2 cakes, there's a lot of cake mixture for 2 cakes, so I think I'm going to split it between 3, and we'll see how it turns out. But my gut feeling tells me that's going to be too much cake mixture for 2 loaf tins, so we'll put it into 3. A moment of truth. Yeah, we got 3 cakes out of 8 eggs. I think what I would do if I was making just one loaf size cake by itself, what I would do is I'd use 3 eggs per loaf, and then we'd get a slightly bigger raise and maybe that crack in the centre of the light. It's just slightly dipped down. That'll be down to the blueberries, and also I'll put a little bit of baking powder in because I use cheap flour. So that's my excuse of the day. So we'll cut into this. I can see that we have got some blueberries on the top there, so we should have it nice and equally interdispersed through the cake, but we'll look through and see how it turns out. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed, and there we go. Result. They haven't fallen down too much. As you can see, they've fallen down a little bit, but we can see we've got some there and in there, so that's all right. There we go. So there we go. It will be nice. Maybe we could have just done with a little bit more flour around the fruit, but still, nice result. It'll be a nice cake. And so if you're going to be using frozen fruit in cakes and things, it's best off just to kind of squeeze the extra juice out of them, otherwise you get a really wet, dense, not horrible cake, because it's cake, and I've never eaten a bad cake that I've made. I've eaten other people's cakes that I didn't particularly like, but I've never made a cake that I didn't eat and didn't enjoy. So there we go, that's what you do with blueberries if they're frozen. Yeah, so kind of, I go around the markets, and towards the end of the day they're normally selling things off a lot cheaper. So they'll be selling, at the start of the day they'll be selling 2 packets of blueberries for £1, and by the end of the day, if they've got blueberries left, they're selling maybe 3 for £1 or even 4 for £1 to get rid of them. And they might be a little bit not be as nice, not as nice, but they're just not as fresh a quality as you get, and they're just kind of coming towards the end of their life. So they tend to sell them off cheaper because they can't really sell them again the next day. So if you go around, if you find things and they're really cheap, you can always freeze your own blueberries. That's what I'm kind of saying. That's what I'm going around the houses about, as always. if you see an opportunity to buy a load of cheap blueberries, and you can always freeze them yourself, that's what you do if you want to use them in cakes. In smoothies, they're fine like that. Or if you're buying frozen fruit, it's just advisable just to kind of crush them and let the juice drain out of them. There we go. I'm sure that's everything. I hope I've made sense. That looked a little bit rubbish, like all the fruit had disappeared down. I've just cut into this because I'm gonna have a slice of it, and I'm gonna eat that bit. I've got the other two are gonna go in the freezer because I'd just eat them all. But as you can see, that fruit there is at the top of the cake. So not as big a failure as I thought when we're cooking there. Obviously we've just cut through a bit that there's no fruit at the top there, but there is fruit at the top there because it's there. So there we go. I am not a failure. I'm not a failure. I never am.